Kingdom Team All Call Time, where you got questions, we got answers, and our first question right out of the gate comes to us from Armchair Imagineer, and they are asking the question, hey, what would you consider to be the best value resort in Walt Disney World? Now, we want to explain for those who have never been to Walt Disney World or don't understand what a value resort is. There are 3 tiers of resorts that you can choose from, value being the lowest, moderate being the middle, and of course, deluxe being the highest. Now, there are some add-ons when you get closer to the top there, but value resorts, they are pretty standard. They're sort of like your average motel, except they do have the over-the-top Disney theming, the Disney touches. So they're nothing like a Motel 6, if you will, but then they're everything like a Motel 6. That's the best way I can put it. They offer a lot more in terms of quality, a lot more in terms of environment, that's for sure. And you see a whole list breakdown there. Disney's All-Star Movies, Disney's All-Star Music, Disney's All-Star Sports Resort, Disney's Pop Century, Disney's Art of Animation, and then the campsites at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort. And so we'll start with Garrett, who is our Walt Disney World reporter and looks to be plopped right in front of Cinderella Castle. Garrett, tell us a little bit about perhaps the best value resort in your opinion at Disney World. Being from there, I'm sure you hear a couple things from people too.
I've heard a lot. I honestly did not know that the campsite was a value resort. I thought it was just attached with Fort Wilderness, but the campsite's really, really cool actually, just because of all like the little roads and pathways. But for me, my favorite is going to be Pop Century. I really, really like Pop Century. I've had the opportunity to stay there a few times, and I like how they have the different decades, such as they have the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And each room just has a little bit of fun. And there you can see that they've renovated a lot of the rooms. They used to have a bit more nostalgia, but I like how you can walk into a certain area and you'll see like Herbie, or you walk into another area and you'll see like a popular cartoon from the 80s. And the food court area also is very, very spacious. It's very wide. It has a good arrangement of food. So Pop Century is a lot of fun for me. It's not off of the beaten path. It's very, very close to Hollywood Studios as well as Epcot. So it's a really, really nice area, and I think it's well maintained, and it just has a very old school classic nostalgia. For me, I like walking into the lobby and you see all like the different pictures of the different decades, such as you'll see like some of Disney's artwork from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. Like you'll see Inspector Gadget and that sort of stuff, which is like just old. But I think about it, and I'm like, man, I really want to watch that movie again. Like I want to watch George of the Jungle, because it's just, I don't know. I really enjoy Pop Century. It's a fun place, and all the little props that they have around there are really, really cool to look at and take pictures with. So Pop Century is getting my vote as the most valuable value resort.
And Pop Century, you raise a good point there. I mean, they did just have the renovation happened, and last year I was able to stay in one of those newly renovated rooms. Absolutely gorgeous, just a beautiful new room. You want to talk about Disney quality? They nailed it, and it doesn't feel like a value resort anymore. It definitely has some quality kicked up 10 notches, and so I appreciate that. I think the other great piece to note on Pop Century in particular is that unlike your Disney's all-star resorts, right? So all-star movies, music, and sports, they're all kind of in a row. And they're off the beaten path. They're all in a row. And a lot of times transportation that goes to the all-star movie resorts, all-star music and sports, they go to all 3. And that's typically something that a lot of people don't consider when booking their value resort, is that sometimes the transportation can be overwhelmed based on time of day. Like if everybody's going to Magic Kingdom in the morning, those buses can be absolutely packed in the morning, and there can be so many individuals looking to jump on board the buses. Now, I know that they will send additional buses at those peak times. They try to do their best to mitigate all of it, but you have to realize that those 3 resorts typically will kind of go the route of sharing transportation, whereas Pop Century and Art of Animation, which is right out the back door, door of Pop Century. There's a what they call Hourglass Lake, a bridge that goes from one resort to the other. They do have now access to the Disney Skyliner. So the Disney Skyliner now picks people up at that station in between, and will take folks over to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Producer Kurtz, you've done the value resort circuit. What sort of stands out to you as one of the best?
The one I really particular am fond of is the All-Star movies. I really like Sorcerer Mickey, and they have a pool there that has Mickey just going bah, and shooting off 3 little
Fantasia pool.
Yeah, Fantasia pool. Oh, it's amazing. And I like the Fantasia look that you have, and you have Toy Story to the left. That's what I particularly have enjoyed. Plus, then, when you go into the lobby there, that one time I did, I've been there a couple times, but they have a little video that shows like, movies coming out, and it had my name and my wife's name on there.
Oh,
I don't know
neat.
how they did it, if it was the GPS of the Magic Band or what, but that really just added to it that I'm checking in and I'm seeing all this magic happening. So even at their lowest resort, they still bring a big Disney flair to it that's just is amazing.
Absolutely. Well, and I don't want to take anything away from the fact that, I mentioned a little bit earlier that it's like a Motel 6 and nothing like a Motel 6. It is like in sort of room shape and style of building. That's where the Motel 6 connection sort of ends, and then it becomes very Disney. And you raise a good point about All-Star Movies. That also just became one of the most recent hotels to go through an overhaul in terms of rooms, and now looks very much like what Pop Century does in terms of value resort room style. So it's the freshest of all the hotels from within. I was able to stay there a couple months ago, and got to tell you, All-Star Movies is looking real good on the interior. The exterior always looks fine. I think All-Star Movies is probably the most entertaining to look at in terms of all of the All-Stars. There's a lot more to enjoy there. Tyler, Katrina, All-Star Movies, have you ever been there or done a value resort that you're like, I like this. This one's probably the best?
I think we both agree.
Yeah, we both agree that I think for us, Art of Animation is our favorite. I've been to All-Star Movies. I've never stayed there, but I do like those. The cool thing about all the value resorts is that they're kind of they kind of bring the most like character to the resorts, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So for little kids, I think they're kind of the most exciting resorts in general. I remember being a young kid and like my family wanted to go stay at one of like Grand Floridian or whatever, and I was like, oh, that place is boring. And like, why can't we stay at one of the places with all the fun stuff around? So I could see kids being really into it, and for me, I like Art of Animation because it brings you kind of closer to a lot of the movies that have come out more recently. Like they have the Little Mermaid section and Lion King and Finding Nemo, and sorry,
they have like Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing is there's a lot of cool little photo ops that you can take. And I mean, all these kind of value hotels have cool little photo ops, but it's just fun to walk through and see like Timon and Pumbaa and Simba like up on a log, and you're just like walking through, and you feel like you're in these different sections. And it's also the newest of all the resorts. Now I know that there are newer rooms at like All-Star Movies, like you mentioned. Those rooms are definitely newer, but the resort as a whole is the newest resort, and that Finding Nemo pool is really cool, and I don't know, I just like it. It just, there's something about it. It's got the biggest rooms too, so if you have like a big family that you're going with, getting any rooms but the Little Mermaid rooms, those are kind of the smaller, kind of more standard rooms. But all 3 other areas all have just these massive family rooms that are a little more expensive, obviously, but they are a good bang for your buck if you have a big family that you're taking. Do you have any? What do you like about Art of Animation?
Thank you for asking. No, what he said, it was really cool when we stayed there, and then you see Timon and Pumbaa and Simba walking on the log, and you're like, oh my God, I remember that scene. And then you just want to take a picture with it. And then you see this huge Lightning McQueen, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And I could see like little kids being just really excited to see these characters come to life, and then you could take pictures in front of it and have really good memories. You don't even have to go to the park. And I'm like, thinking as a parent, you're like, this is the cheaper way. But and then you have like the Skyliner, which is super nice, because I remember the buses, like you said, could be a little tedious, especially when in the morning everybody wants to get to like Magic Kingdom and everybody's like just pushing in to get there, and it's really uncomfortable and it's not the best thing to do in the morning. But again, they have like really great food options over there. I still love their waffles because they're like unique. The waffles are not just like the normal Mickey Mouse waffles. They have like Simba, I think, or Nala, one of those. And then they had like Lightning McQueen. And it's just really cool to see something different and new.
Yeah, that's a really great thing to point out is that I think the quick service environment there at Art of Animation, that whole food court is head and shoulders above any value resort quick service restaurant that you're going to experience. It's just in terms of quality, in terms of spacing, the way that it's laid out, because it is the newest of all the value resorts. I think you're absolutely right. I think that they made it the way that they took notes from the others and went, we need to do this a little bit differently next time because we keep getting bigger and we keep having more crowds. And Art of Animation, to your point, Tyler, is a place where the majority of the rooms are those family suites. So something to keep in mind is that, yeah, they are going to run you a little bit higher because they're suites for the most part. I think the Little Mermaid section is the only one that has those sort of single rooms, but the rest of the place is really dedicated to family suites. And it's like the 5-year-old me's dream of what going and staying at Disney World is going to be like. I remember my first trip there. I think it was the first year. My first trip to Art of Animation, rather, was the first year that it was open. And I stayed in the Cars suite, and it was so incredible. You're absolutely right. You can walk up to these sort of life-size characters, if you will, that are all laid out for you, and everything is so vibrant and fun and upbeat. And now knowing that the Skyliner station is right there, I think the Art of Animation definitely competes for top of the line when it comes to the best of the values. But I will say that if you're not somebody that needs the family suite, perhaps Pop Century is the better bet just for the sake of not needing the extra space. What were you going to say?
Sure. I was also going to say that, just kind of to your point, that like it is fun. Like every single room is not every single room, but every like area of the resort is different. So, and you get to explore your room when you come in. And like when we stayed in the Little Mermaid room and stuff, it's like there's fish on the wall, and there's like the shower curtain had like Ariel on and stuff. So it's just fun to kind of go around each corner and be like, oh wow, what's in this room that's themed to Finding Nemo? I think that's really fun for the kids and the big kids as well.
All the kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's cool to have those value resorts hitting home for us, and some of the best there for you when it comes to what you can choose at Walt Disney World. We want to thank our dear friend Armchair Imagineer for sending in that question.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.